evening, I am Michelle Mathieson, your host for this evening on Michelle's Minutes. This week on the show, we will be heading outdoors and talking with a few individuals as they share with us the healing powers of the land. Over the course of this evening, we will be unpacking what wilderness therapy really is and the forms it takes in today's society. Green therapy, land-based healing, therapeutic recreation, ecotherapy, green exercise, wilderness experience programs, care farming, animal therapy, challenge courses, experiential education, outdoor behavioral health, horticultural therapy, green care, adventure-based therapy, nature-based mindfulness. What do these all have in common and how are they connected? All of these terms are linked together, working off of similar principles and working towards similar goals. However, they each contain their own unique methods and theories behind their techniques. This type of teaching is growing in popularity as it is spread throughout the globe and inspired growth in thousands of individuals. That being said, although the term wilderness therapy is growing amongst the outdoors communities, an overarching definition seems to be lacking. Simplified, wilderness therapy is the use of wilderness expeditions for the purpose of therapeutic interventions. The idea behind this concept is that our separation from the natural world has had a negative impact on our biological, psychological, social, and spiritual health. And entering into an intentional time with the living world has the ability to assist in the holistic healing process of a person and those close to them. Let's head over to one of our well-researched employees outside of the studio as she explains to us the history of wilderness therapy. The history of wilderness therapy can be traced back all the way to the debate between rationalists and imperialists, with the rationalists believing that information through senses is unreliable and only information through reason is reliable, where the imperialists argue that knowledge is derived from experience and abstract concepts that cannot be directly experienced, cannot be known. It wasn't until later that several philosophers argued both rational and experiential learning are important in the construction of knowledge. Unfortunately, the westernized education system relies heavily, if not completely, on reason and rational thought. One of the most recognized works in regards to the theory that education needs to be diverse was a book written by John Dewey in 1938 called Experience and Education. This work led to the development of the global experiential education trend. The next massively influential educator in this field of study was Kurt Hahn. He is the founder of many schools as well as the very well-known and respected Outward Bound program. He has been credited as the first person to take experiential education into a wilderness setting. Through his research and personal experience with sailors, he was able to understand that the healthiest people have strong mental capability. Hahn recognized that it wasn't the fit young men who would survive when a ship would capsize, but the older men. He understood this to be the wisdom that comes from age and maturity in life circumstances that contributed to their survival. For Hahn, the entire school day, including curricula, daily routines, social life, and extracurricular activities, could be used to help young people develop social responsibility and high aspirations. Since this time, the experiential education process has begun to increase in popularity. In the United States alone, there are over 200 programs that fall under this category. There are many branches of this method that lead to adventure therapy and, in turn, wilderness therapy. Would you be able to explain to us what you actually mean when you say experiential education? Yeah, of course. When education is said to be experiential, it means that it is structured in a way that allows the learner to explore the phenomenon under study, to form a direct relationship with the subject matter, rather than merely reading about the phenomenon or encountering it indirectly. Experiential education then requires that the learner play an active role in experience, and that the experience is followed by reflection as a method for processing, understanding, and making sense of it. All that being said, experiential education is learning by doing. And in a wilderness setting, there is a lot to learn.
Yeah, but it's distributed a lot differently.
One popular study conducted in a hospital by Ulrich in the 1980s kick-started the idea that there are many physical and emotional benefits to simply having a window in hospital rooms. The results showed that the people with views of trees, compared to those who had brick walls, had shorter post-operative hospital stays, had fewer negative evaluative comments from nurses, took fewer moderate and strong pain-killing doses, and had slightly lower scores for minor post-surgical complications. Let's take a look at some of the other effects this form of therapy can have. Wilderness therapy has amazing benefits, each catered to the greatest needs of the individual. Some of these benefits include, but are not limited to, the decrease of stress, mental fatigue, negative emotions, decreased recovery time in both physical and mental health, the decrease in anxiety and in depression. It has the ability to increase directed attention, job satisfaction, mental well-being, self-esteem, the locus of control, emotional regulation, psychosocial functioning, mindfulness. It has the ability to expand your senses, to increase responsibility and leadership skills, to increase your creativity, relaxation, and your imagination. Wilderness therapy takes on many different forms around the globe. Here are a few examples.
Reporting live from Vietnam.
Great! Well, let's just take a quick break as we hear a word from our sponsor.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out, well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution, nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of Nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
Well, I know I could definitely benefit from some nature today. With all of these amazing results from wilderness therapy, what could possibly be holding back our systems from implementing these services across the board? Well, in fact, there are several issues standing in the way. For in-school programs, cost is always a factor, as well as the transportation of the students, not to mention the time, planning, and dedication it takes to follow through with a program. Educators have to be fully on board to be able to support the students in this style. There are many parents as well as legislators who stand in the way, believing that accountability is best measured through standardized school testing. As long as our systems continue to reflect the ongoing economic and political debates equating learning with routine memorization, measurable through mass-produced and inexpensive to score multiple-choice testing, our teachers will continue to teach with an ever-narrowing definition of learning. As was mentioned earlier, the adventure education process is the link between the broad definition of experiential education and wilderness therapy. I think it is important that we really understand this process a little more intentionally. As the adventure education process explains, a novel setting is an important part of development in a person. However, it goes further than that. Shakiste explains to us that in an era of displacement, the experience of place remains what it has always been to our species, consciously for primal peoples and unconsciously for us. A facet of identity, a center of belonging and finding oneself. A template for kinship ties, a testing ground for wayfinding, a sacred site with social, historical, and spiritual roots, a source of deep healing, a reality to rescue from the abstract idea of space, and a nexus of story, image, recurrent motif, and metaphor joining us to the land while shaping the personally felt stories and events we tend to think of as ours alone. Debates amongst experiential education experts have often revolved around place. Does the place have to be in the wilderness? It has been argued in 3 different ways: yes, no, and partially, with some arguing that any natural setting will suffice. However, as I have researched programs across Canada and the globe, there is very little information on programs conducted inside cities. This is a major gap in research that I was unable to assist with. Programs offered have options to take urban residents into the wilderness. However, I believe that there is an importance in daily routines of a nature dose. In my research, I was able to find several programs that offered some sort of an aftercare service to the individuals or for their families. They have been proven to be successful. However, I would love to see more research done on the long-term effects on the individuals and their reliance on or ability to cope without the wilderness. What bothers me the most about our education systems is not what's being taught per se, but how it's being taught. It's a well-known fact that lecture style of teaching is not only an ineffective way of learning, but it's officially proven to be the least effective method out there. In fact, the average retention rate of a lecture style is only 5%. 5%! Then why is this the most widely used method out there today? In an article I read recently, it compared the North American education system to that of Finland's. It explains how in recent years we have been cutting recess times and beginning formal education at younger and younger ages. Finland, who has consistently been ranked with the highest global test scores in the Western world, is doing the complete opposite. They have mandatory 15-minute outdoor free play break every hour, every day. The children don't begin formal education until they are 7, spending their years prior learning through play, song, games, and conversations. They have very little homework, avoid standardized testing, and have short school days. You might think, this can't be working, or we would have adopted their methods by now. Where in fact, they used American research to make structural changes to their education system in the first place. The United States actually contributes to approximately 80% of the world's educational research. There is a major disconnect between what the research is showing and what's actually being done, and we need to take a closer look at the systemic differences between our education systems. To begin with, teachers are ranked alongside doctors and lawyers, as well as well-respected professionals in Finland. The educators must go through many years of training, and it's been said that it is harder to get into primary school education than into a medical program, compared to Canada's system, where schooling has recently changed from 1 year of postgrad study to 2. Let's talk a minute about standardized testing. Pasi Sahlberg, a Finnish education expert, says that if he could change one thing in policy, it would be to seriously rethink the role of standardized testing. No high-performing nation in the world has been successful using the policies that the United States is using. He explains that not everything about standardized testing is bad. However, the way it is currently being used is leading to so many negative consequences in the form of narrowing curricula and reshaping the way teachers and schools are working. In Finland, instead of using standardized testing methods, children are assessed every day through direct observation, check-ins, and quizzes. The largest barrier that always seems to come up in the educational systems in North America is money. However, stats would show that Finland is actually spending less money on their educational system than most developed countries. Finland's educational policies also adhere to making school a safe, comfortable, and fun place to be. They use the outdoors to their advantage, believing that fresh air, nature, and regular physical activity breaks are considered engines of learning. This article explains how one primary school gym class is given a map and compass and must find a way out of their woods. If we begin to compare this concept with the Canadian beliefs, we can find them extremely different. Policies may not be unlike by appearance, however the underlying attitudes and actions relayed to students in Canada expresses separate priorities. In Canada, stress due to school pressure can be seen through the increasing mental health struggles, including but not limited to suicidal numbers among students. Another systemic attitude can be seen in the extended library hours. The system showing through their actions that a normal school workload should require all-nighters spent in the library. A Canadian math teacher explains that the best teaching is some shade of gray, where before the teacher talks about what to do, the teacher gives the students some reason to care and some background on how to care. Maybe it's time that our policies began to reflect this as well. It's up to us, as a society, to change the definition of learning, to change the results. Experiential education advocates define learning as the process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. Unpacking this definition further, 3 words stand out. Experience, you should be very familiar with by now. Knowledge, deeper than learning, is knowing and understanding. And transformation, at the very core of transformation, is reflection. Taking the time to make meaning of your experience. As Kierkegaard puts it, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forward. Let's make change in our future by reflecting on the past. All of that to say, get outside, folks. It's good for you.